Don't share any of my family's information online, primarily because I don't know the answer to how much I should share.
I think you just have to be really careful and make sure that whatever you share is relevant to your audiences, doesn't give so much away that they can hunt you down and find you.
And I keep it very, very close to the chest as well. I don't share any details whatsoever. I share it with people and other men in person who are my men, so to speak, but online, I keep it just me.
If it involves sharing personal details about their life, that's too much. But if I can share completely about my own experience in relationship to them, then it's fine.
I think that location is the biggest issue in sharing about your family.
Anything you wouldn't say to the entire crowd at the Super Bowl on the 50-yard line, it's probably too much.
My wife and I have totally separate views on what's too much information, and we try to keep names out of it. My wife doesn't even like Foursquare or Facebook Places and things like that, so we're still filling that out.
Honestly, a matter of personal preference. What are you comfortable sharing is what it comes down to. If you don't want your kids' names, give them a couple of pseudonyms and use different names.
I really think it depends on you and your partner and the arrangements that you make, keeping in mind that your children do have a future online and that media will never disappear.
For me, doesn't really matter. Put it all out there. For my kids, pictures, that's about it.
Don't share any more information than you would in real life. If you're walking down the street and you saw some strangers, you wouldn't just walk up to them and say, my kid has XYZ.
I don't step over a line where I know that what I write about them could come back to hurt them or affect them in a negative way.
Just because they're kids, it doesn't mean they're fair game to have their lives printed all over the internet. So
I kind of cut it off at family in terms of what goes on within my family and things like that.
And it's different for different people, but I would say err on the side of being a little more cautious rather than a little more out there, because it's easy to go further, but it's really hard to pull it back.
Too much to share on the web is when you're going to get in trouble with your wife.
I think when it comes to sharing online, you're always a father first.
Hence, it really depends on the relationship that you have with your wife, and also depends on how old your kids are and at what stage you're at. There's different opportunities to talk about your kids in different ways, and it's just being professional about it. Just like you would at work, if you're talking about things with work, you want to do the same thing with the family.
As far as how much information is too much to share online about your family, I think it really depends on the situation and what you and your family are comfortable with.
The biggest thing to think about is how your family feels about it, and to really think about, is this going to embarrass my child? Is this going to embarrass my spouse? Is this worth sharing? Is it really that big of a deal that I need to put it out there if it's going to bother them?
I mean, it's one thing for you and your spouse to be open and transparent. I believe in authenticity with all my heart, but it's a whole nother thing when you start sharing your kids' stuff, and especially when it has a tendency to make them look bad, especially like I have a 15-year-old daughter, and the last thing you want to do is influence her self-worth in a negative fashion.
Thank you very much. I don't put any pictures or any names on my site. I consider my son, and that's all people need to know.
I don't like sharing details about birthdays, personal information, where the kids go to school. Just so, you never know who's going to be reading this information, so I try to draw a boundary line or